you want to take out the highs and lows in your real estate business, then you're going to really want to watch our mastermind. Your pipeline is your lifeline. My business coach and partner, John Gualtieri, he is going to talk about how to turn a lead into a prospect, how to put structure around that, how to change your mindset around it, and how to nurture those leads so that you're spending your time on lead generation, lead follow-up, prospect follow-up, and then your daily business. This will take the highs and lows, the feast and famine out of your business. So I hope you love our mastermind. And I've been a realtor for 38 years. For those who don't know me, my name's Will Penney. And I got licensed in 1988 when I was 19. I've sold about 3,000 houses. I had my own brokerage for over 20 years. I currently have a team of 6 in Akron, Ohio. My business coach and partner, John Gualtieri, is on this call with us. And today we're going to talk about the 2 reasons that most real estate agents struggle. The first one is lead generation. They don't spend, they don't treat like that part like a business. But today, the second part is a pipeline. If you talk to any business owner or successful real estate agent or team leader, they're not just focused on the business that they get today. They're focused on what's coming in down the road. It's like a conveyor belt. When you put a pizza in the front, it cooks and drops out the back. Well, your goal in the business part of your business, so that you don't have the highs and lows, is that you want to spend your days, and we're not going to talk about lead generation today. We're going to talk about the conversion part and building your pipeline. But your main job in real estate, so that you can have a business and generate consistent commission checks for you and your family, is to spend part of the day generating leads. And you're going to have short, middle, and long-term leads. And then you're going to turn those into prospects. And then you're going to manage those prospects and stay in touch with them, stay top of mind with them, so that you end up having a consistent flow of business into your world. So I'm very excited. John Gualtieri, who's a national coach, he coaches agents that all make multi-6-figure or 7-figure income. He's been doing it for a very long time. Prior to coaching, he led the largest RE/MAX team in Philadelphia. And today he's my business partner. He's based in St. Augustine, Florida. And we have these monthly masterminds for you. For those of you that are on for the first time, we have masterminds like this once a month. It's usually the first or second Monday of the month. But today I'm going to introduce John, and he's going to talk about the mindset behind why you need a pipeline. He's going to talk about how to have a conversation with someone when they start off as a lead so that you can turn them into a prospect. And then he's going to talk about how to categorize those people so that you can stay in touch with them and hopefully either sell a house for them or to them down the road. So having said that, hopefully this will be a productive meeting for everybody here. I'm going to hand it over to John.
Thank you, Will. And guys, Will said a lot of nice things about me, but you can rest assured knowing that he lies about many other things. And I'm just wanting to put that out there.
That's right.
So guys, I want to tell you that, throughout this, Will and I had spoken this morning, there are 5 things that are going to kill you if you're not acutely aware of them in this game. And so Will and I were talking about, part of the challenge is that I hear this all the time. Well, the real estate business is feast or famine, right? And that's dangerous. And here's why. I'm going to share my screen with you. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, sharing's not allowed.
Okay, what you do is go ahead and try to share it.
Yeah, send request.
There we go.
All
right.
So I'm going to share my screen with everybody. Screen number 2. Can everybody see that?
Not yet.
Okay.
We can see your desktop. Hopefully there's nothing that will cause you a lot of grief on there.
Yeah, well, nothing that Karen would,
your wife hasn't seen.
I would have a problem with, believe me. Okay, so let's share and see if we can get it now. Does everybody see this other screen here? If not,
no, this is you need to go up to your PDF or what have you.
Yeah, it's open on my other screen. It's open on my second screen, so that's weird. How about now? You see that?
There you go. Yep.
All right, so guys, look, everything starts with belief systems, and I want to share a story with you. If we have disempowering belief systems, what's dangerous about that is that we're going to start to believe our own BS, and we're going to then behave in a manner consistent with that belief. And so the story goes like this. I was sharing this with Will this morning. I have three clients, all women, who habitually get a 6% commission on every listing, even post all of these lawsuits and so forth. I mean, consistently, it's remarkable to me that I would say 95% of the time, it's rare that they don't get 6%. And I had another client who was habitually, struggling to get a 4.5% commission. I told her about these other three women, and I said, well, why do you think that is? And she said, well, they must be in better marketplaces, right? And I said, no, the reason is because they believe something else and they behave in a manner consistent with that something else. So we've got to be really careful before we go down this road of what we believe. If we believe that the real estate business is feast or famine, we're right. If we believe that our income is going to be peaks and valleys, we're right. And it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. We can believe something else. So it all starts there. And once we have this belief, these three things across this plane here, we
This episode of the Building Stronger Agents podcast is brought to you by Social Orchard. At Social Orchard, we help successful real estate agents nurture their past clients in Sphere 4 to 5 days a week so that you can never be forgotten. We're going to help you build a community with a private Facebook group. We provide all of the content, we help you engage and have conversations with your sphere. All you have to do is invite your Facebook friends, grow the group, and engage with the comments daily. With your private friends and family Facebook group, you are never going to be forgotten again. And over time, your referral and repeat business is going to be stronger than it ever has been before. Visit socialorchard.com today.
And it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. We can believe something else. So it all starts there. And once we have this belief, these three things across this plane here, we have to have enough incentive to succeed that we're willing to do the stuff that needs to be done to succeed. We need sales skills. We're going to talk about that partially today. And then we need personal goals. And if we have these three things, then we have to be very, very cognizant of our sales activity, meaning what are we doing on a consistent basis? What's our game plan, right? To achieve all this stuff. And so when we're talking to people on the phone, right? They fall into two categories: people with whom we have a relationship,
Hey,
people
Garrett.
we know, and people we
Okay, good.
don't
You get
know.
my voicemail or?
I'm sorry. There's somebody.
I muted them. It's good. No, you're good, John. I just muted. Somebody was talking to somebody.
So people fall into two broad categories, right? When we're talking to them on the phone, people we know, they're called past clients in our sphere of influence, and people we don't know. That includes people who are referred in, right? And we get in trouble with the second one. The first one, we already have a relationship, and it's usually based on trust. So here's the deal: there's four outcomes of those conversations. One, the ideal outcome is an appointment with a prospect, not a lead, right? A prospect. And we'll talk about what that is in a second. The second outcome could be an agreement with a prospect about what's going to happen next, an exchange of commitments. So let me tell you what that is. Nikki, it was a pleasure speaking with you. I know you're not going to be ready to do anything until April, so I'll follow up with you in March. So, Nick, do you want to take a shot of what's going to happen when you follow up in March and you talk to these people? What do you think is going to happen? We have to
You're
unmute.
on mute. You're on mute.
They went to somebody else.
Exactly. I'm sorry. We already bought a house. We already sold a house. Who is this? Please don't call here. We're going in another direction. Yeah, it's just brutal. So it's a qualified prospect, and we'll talk about this. And then there's a no. You get a no. So I'm going to pick on Brad because he's new. Brad. Is a no okay to get? Is a no fine?
And no is not a good sign, that's for sure.
Well, it kind of is because you can't help them. They have unreal expectations. You know they're going to be a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? It's like it's okay to have a no if as long as you really assess it. And then number 4 is a lesson. You get your butt kicked, right? That's what's not acceptable. The first 3, an appointment with a qualified prospect, an agreement to talk in a future time with a qualified prospect, and no, that stuff is all fine. Let me turn this damn phone off. But getting your butt kicked is not okay. It's not okay. And I think that we've all gotten our butts kicked. And unless anybody's really willing to share a butt kicking,
John, what causes what, explain to those who are in a different, aren't thinking about it. What is a lesson?
okay,
And what's it caused by?
You want one out of my playbook? So
Sure.
it goes like this, not one of my finer moments. So I had a prospect, or I'm sorry, a lead that I was talking to, and this lead said to me, John, you realtors are all the same. Why should I hire you? So I gave a great horse and pony show. Well, man, I sell gazillion billion dollars worth of real estate. I drive a Mercedes. My wife is hot. My mistress is hotter. I am the greatest real estate agent in the world. That's why you should hire me. Okay, well, listen, we'll get back to you, click, right? The question begs answering, what should I have said, right? What should I have done? And Will and I talked about this morning. And I should have just said, hey, Mr. Smith, I don't know whether or not I'm the right realtor for you. I really don't. I haven't talked to you about your goals. I haven't talked to you about the outcome that you want with an agent. Haven't even seen your house yet. So look, let's get together and just see if we're a good fit. We might not be, right? A little push away, not a commercial. That was a lesson, right? That was a lesson. And there's many lessons that I got over the years, but that's a conversation for another day. But we don't want a lesson, okay? And going back to that first screen, that's called sales skills, right? And that doesn't happen. I mean, guys, with people that we know and with whom we have a relationship, different conversation, people that we don't know, which includes referrals. Don't assume just because it's a referral that it's a shoe-in, because it's not. Then it's a whole different conversation. We need to handle it differently, and this is where a lot of the butt kicking takes place. Okay,
Let me add something, John.
please.
I was talking to an agent who's a good friend of mine last week. He had helped one of his buddies buy a house, and he got a call from them. They wanted to sell their house and move. So he said, great. And from the very first minute, took it for granted. And so when he went over there, he didn't go over his listing presentation with them. He didn't go over the expenses with them. He didn't talk about the commission with them. He didn't talk about the things that he could do for them. He didn't talk about what they wanted to do. And a couple of days later, they texted him and said they went in a different direction. One of his own friends. So one of the ways to get taught a lesson with someone you do know is take it for granted.
Well, exactly.
Because you can get a big lesson, and I think we may have all had that happen.
I mean, Pat, you're seeing it a lot more, by the way. But guys, look, let's just circle back to the things that are going to kill you, because I'm going to jump into number 2 now. Number 1 is you have disempowering beliefs, and whatever you believe, you're right. And I said to Will this morning, I said, belief systems can be like an iron stake hammered into frozen ground. Just try to get that out. And people will argue for their disempowering beliefs. You argue for your disempowering beliefs, they're yours. You got them. And man, sometimes despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, people are stuck in their beliefs. Another belief in this business is there's going to be massive pain for me to earn really good money. Wow, right? That's the kiss of death. So disempowering beliefs is the first thing. Okay, the second thing is, in real estate over the years, I've been asked this, Will's been asked this, what is the holy grail? What is the big secret, right? And there is one, but it might not be what you think it is. So does anybody want to take a shot at what the holy grail is?
Holy grail for what?
for real estate, the thing that matters more than anything else that has to do with earning money and having a steady flow of income instead of this. Anybody want to take a shot? Steven, I would pick on you, but I don't want to pick on you because I always pick on you in the other mastermind calls. The answer to
funny.
this, guys, everybody on this call is capable of putting 1 to 2 solid prospects in your pipeline every week. I was talking to a young guy that I coached a couple of years back, and I said, look, man, when I used to wake up Monday morning and my feet hit the ground when I was selling real estate full time, what do you think the number one thing on my mind was? And he said, you were probably thinking you had to pee. I said, okay. I said, after
Number two.
after that. And what it was is, look, man, this week I got to put 2 solid prospects in my pipeline. That's my obsession. And if you were to do that, that's 100 a year. 100 solid prospects a year. And everybody on this phone call is capable of doing that. The reason that you're not is because you're not thinking about it. That's the holy grail. And that's the other thing that has serious consequences. So the first thing is your beliefs. The second thing is you're not thinking about the quality of your pipeline. You don't wake up in the morning and think, man, I've got to get 2 solid prospects in there. And guys, I am not chastising you at all. I'm loving on you because I made these mistakes too. Will's the only one who never made these mistakes. And it's just,
Oh, sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you take somebody who is committed to creating 2 solid prospects in their pipeline every week, okay, I'm going to make a bold statement. You could take that individual and you could transfer him or her to any other marketplace. You give them an automobile, a cell phone, a GPS, and access to MLS. They could create 2 solid prospects a week in any marketplace. And here's the really crazy statement. When you have that, as Dolly Helber is a client of mine, she calls it her magnificent obsession, 2 solid prospects in the pipeline. And when you have that mindset, what I believe is you bring people into your space and opportunity into your space that otherwise wouldn't have been there. It's some people call it the law of attraction, right? And at the end of the day, it works wonders. So you can't do it anonymously, and I'm not going to embarrass anybody, but how many people on our call today are habitually obsessed with their pipeline of upcoming business? Habitually obsessed with it. That's a great.
I think the vast majority of the vast majority of agents, regardless of income, aren't thinking about it. But if you get outside of our business, and we're just independent salespeople, we forget that we have a business. And you get outside of our business, every business is focused on their pipeline. They've got marketing departments, marketing budgets, and they're constantly trying to drive traffic through their door or through their checkout online. And we don't think about that at all. We just sit here with our real estate license expecting people to show up. And some people it works really well for. The rest of us, it ends up creating the highs and lows because we just don't think about prospecting. And we think that we can just go on social media, but John's been my coach for 17 years. And back when I was prospecting, I tried to get 1 appointment a day, which was 200, that's 5 a week, 250 a year. 25% conversion rate, 60 transactions. That was my obsession. But whatever it is, whatever your goal is, you need to think about driving. John's going to talk about the difference between a lead and a prospect here shortly. And there's a big difference between a lead and a prospect. A lead is just somebody coming in, you know nothing about them. And John's going to talk about what makes them a prospect. But if we just focused on that, on getting 1 or 2 people in our database and then spending our time nurturing that database, it completely changes the look of your business.
There's no doubt about it. So just circling back, guys, the kiss of death, number 1, disempowering beliefs. I mean, I'm just going to be really straightforward and say, if you have disempowering belief systems, you had better challenge them. Otherwise, you need to go get a regular job. You'll never make it in this business, never, if you have disempowering beliefs. And look, sometimes you need help with that. I know I did. I mean, it's not that you're going to wave a magic wand and say, oh, I don't have these disempowering beliefs anymore. Like oftentimes we need help of a good coach or a counselor, good friend. Second kiss of death is not being obsessed with what I call the prime directive, the holy grail. 2 solid prospects in your pipeline every week. That gives you 100. Even if you convert half of them, that's 50 transactions a year. And for you team leaders, your team agents should be obsessed with that as well. All right, so let me share the screen again. But before I do, I want to say this. There is this threshold moment, okay, where you're on the phone with someone you don't know, right? If you know somebody, different conversation. You don't know this person. I don't care if they're referred in or not. You've got one shot. You've got one shot at this. And the question that begs answering is, Nick, do you notice this? You see that? I can't help myself. It's the Italian,
East Coast
Yeah.
Italian.
the South Philly thing, right?
Dealing with the Capados.
Anybody else here has a last name that ends in a vowel? Right. So anyway, at the end of the day, you've just got this one shot, right? And the question that begs answering is, how many of these one shots that you get is it okay to lose because you don't know what you're doing because you're winging it, right? How many? 1, 5, 10,
Zero.
50?
Zero.
Right? 0. And so you just got this threshold, man, where you need to understand going in there and winging it assures that they're going to do business with somebody else. Going in there like a brain surgeon assures that you're going to get one of the 3 outcomes, right? And a no is fine. So let me share this screen with you and what constitutes a really successful call. Okay, that's something that is imperative for us to know. Okay, can we see this?
Yep.
Yes.
So I was on a phone call with Will a few weeks back, 2 weeks ago, and we were talking with someone who's a potential prospect, and the details didn't matter. And I sat back and I told Will this morning, and he has gotten to the point with this stuff where he is unconsciously competent. It's like riding a bike, okay? We cannot afford to be unconsciously incompetent here. We either want to be consciously incompetent because then we can do something about it. Consciously competent, meaning that, okay, I've got to really think this through, but we want to get to the place where Will was. And I told him he executed, brilliantly. He really did. And Will, I mean that sincerely. So the first thing is to be prospect centered. All right. So what does that mean exactly? Darius, if you don't mind me picking on you, if you had to guess,
John, this real quick, John, just to give some context to this is somebody is making an inquiry. They're wanting to buy or sell a house, correct? And you're talking about how you're
correct.
going to
You've
be
got this
handling
one shot
the
on the
call.
phone with a
Got
potential
it.
piece of business. So Darius, if you had to guess, what does it mean to be prospect centered?
Pretty much what it says. We want to make sure we're finding what the prospect's pain or pleasure is, so that way we can see where they're at. So we know why they want to move.
Exactly. And you know what we're focused on a lot of the time? The outcome that we want instead of that individual. And as long as we're focused on our outcome, it's going to end badly, right? I ask people, what's the outcome? Get an appointment. It's like, good luck with that, man. You want to do what Darius just said. You want to create enough trust that you really understand them and they get that you get them. So you focus entirely on that person and not on your outcome, right? You get the focus off of the property they called on. You just use that property as a springboard to find out more about them, and right? And again, you get the focus off your outcome. So Darius mentioned pain and pleasure. So you ask questions, you find pain. What's that? The emotional drivers behind why they want what they want. Now, Stephen and I were talking, I guess it was on Wednesday, Stephen, right? And you said, my biggest problem, I think, is finding pain. And I said, Steve, that's not your biggest challenge. Your biggest challenge is to recognize pain indicators, right? That's the biggest challenge. When somebody says something that's a pain indicator. So I'll give you, for example. For example, I was talking to a guy years ago, and I was just starting to, own this stuff. And he said to me, I said, well, Vince, why are you thinking about moving from Northeast Philadelphia to the suburbs? He said, my neighbor got robbed. That's what he said to me. Now, what most of us will do is say, Vince, I'm so sorry to hear that. Do you need a basement? Right. And see, that was a pain indicator. It was huge. And that's where you want to recognize these pain indicators. I had a woman, see where it says find pain. The way you find pain is to ask questions or look for pain indicators. This woman said to me, we need to move out of our townhouse because the kids are growing up and my husband works from home. Okay, that's great. How many bedrooms do you need? No, I gave her a little push away. I said, Mary, the townhouse that you're in, I understand that your husband's working from home, but you just told me he was working up in the master bedroom. Why is that a problem? I mean, nobody's up there during the day. She said, are you kidding me? His stuff is everywhere, on the floor, on the desk, in the closet. I can't stand it anymore. See, that's how you find the prospect's pain. You recognize those pain indicators and you dig. And that's a mastermind all to itself. Okay. And when the prospect will know far more about whether or not they can trust us from the questions we ask than anything we can tell them. And we're tell. I was thinking after we hung up, Will, some of you probably are too young to remember this, but there was a comic book. I remember when I was in Philly, everybody goes to vacation, Nikki, at the Jersey Shore, right?
South Jersey.
So I bring a bunch of comic books, with me to read in the car, like Superman and Spider-Man. And there was this one comic book called Richie Rich. And it was this rich kid, right? And his father's name was Daddy Warbucks. And the salesperson came, I'll never forget this. The salesperson came to his house to sell them a maid that was a robot, right? And so guess what the salesperson's name was? Mr. Yakety Yak. Mr. Yakety Yak. We talk too freaking much. And again, in terms of building your pipeline, you got this window, man, where you're either going to blow it or you're going to make it happen. And when you talk too much, look out. And unfortunately, the vast majority of salespeople talk too damn much. We try to aggrandize ourselves in an effort to demonstrate how great we are in the eyes of the prospect, which I understand, but all it's going to do is backfire. We should be listening 80% of the time. 80%. And the 20% when we're talking, we should be asking questions. And you want to build your pipeline, you can blow it right here. Now, when I was watching Will on this call, I was very observant. Will did not change who he was. I listen to salespeople sometimes in role play. What was that lady that had 400 personalities? Will Sybil? Remember?
Yeah, something like that.
She had all these personalities. I sit back and I watch salespeople, and everything changes. Their tonality changes. The way that they say things changes. It's like they become this other person. And guess what? It's not going to bode well. The prospect will pick it up, right? The lead will pick it up unconsciously. Just be who you are. It's fine. It's fine. How would you like to, God forbid, have brain surgery and the brain surgeon comes in and he's a totally different person than he was when you were in the exam room 4 weeks ago? I mean, seriously, I'm really upset about that. Now, we're going to talk about qualifying the prospect in just a second, okay? But at the end of the day, they have to have the right DNA. So let's look at that, all right? when we look at here, right, this is another kiss of death, and Will was alluding to it. There's a huge difference between a lead and a prospect, and this is dangerous because we have this pipeline that's filled with a lot of dead plants that we're watering. They are leads, they are not prospects. So, Will, do you want to talk a little bit about what a lead is versus a prospect?
A lead is anybody with a question. You know, they want to know about a house, where it is, how much it is, how many bedrooms it has. They're just asking a question, and you know nothing about them.
Yeah, the point is that, we often say, hey, I had a really good conversation with someone. Well, number one, what does that mean? Right? And number two, it's meaningless. A really great conversation means that you walk away with a prospect. Okay, now here's the deal. A prospect meets 4 criteria. And man, if you take anything away from this call when it comes to filling your pipeline, here it is. This is money. Number one, you've had a substantive dialogue with that individual. What does that mean? More than 5 minutes. Okay, a substantive dialogue takes 20 minutes or more, right, to have a substantive dialogue. So if you're on the phone with somebody for 5 minutes and they dispense all kinds of information, so what? You do not want leads in your prospect pipeline. You want prospects in your prospect pipeline. Leads go somewhere else, right? The second thing is that you want to qualify them as to their DNA, right? DNA is an acronym for desire, need, ability. So here's what I'm going to say. Everybody already got an A plus. All right, so I'm going to give you a quiz question. I'm going to pick on Todd Hurley. I just feel like picking on him this afternoon. So Todd got an A plus.
Perfect. Thank you.
What one variable more than any other, whether it's a buyer or a seller, what one thing is going to determine whether or not we're going to see a commission check more than anything else? Everything else is a distant second. What one thing?
How motivated they are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Whoever shared that with you? I can't remember.
Let me think about it.
Yeah, right. It's their level of motivation. Guys, if somebody is not sufficiently motivated, you're not going to see a paycheck. It's really that simple. And so 2 things here. I want to bring Will in a second. I was sharing a story where this woman called me, a client, and she was a team agent. And in her defense, she was only about a year in, and she was literally in tears. I mean, literally, almost sobbing. And she had driven these people all around, for weeks, trying to find them at home. And then she gets a text message. These people didn't even have the courtesy to call her and say, hey, we decided we're not going to buy a house. Okay. So I said to her, look, sis, I don't want this to ever happen to you again, ever. And I was where you were on more than one occasion when I was new in the game. I said, but how much time did you spend discussing the level of motivation with these buyers? And when I evaluated the dead silence I got in response to that question, the answer was 0 seconds. And think about it, man. That's the thing that's going to get us paid. And we don't go into these dialogues with serious intentions. The ladies, I don't like to use boxing metaphors, but there, for those of you who remember Mike Tyson, his trainer was Angelo Dundee. And Brett Musburger was a ABC sports commentator at the time. He was interviewing Angelo Dundee, and he said, Angelo, if you could describe Mike Tyson in one sentence, what would that sentence be? And he said, Mike Tyson hits with serious intentions, right? Well, in this wheelhouse, we have to hit with serious intentions, and we need to understand how to have a motivation dialogue without the prospect realizing that that's where we're going. So I said to Will this morning, Will, quick test. Will, what's the question that we ask 100% of the time to open up that dialogue? You said, in a perfect world.
In a perfect world, when do you have a date in the future where you'd like to have this behind you, where you'd like to have moved?
Exactly. They say, well, probably July 31st. Well, could you share with me why that's important? Well, da 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 da, kids, E-I-E-I-O. Well, look, if you found the perfect house before then, I'm guessing that you probably would have to wait till July 31st. You see, guys, you're hitting the motivation piece with serious intentions. And we conclude sometimes people say, we're flexible, we're not in any hurry. And then we leave it sit there. Well, listen, when you say you're not in any hurry, tell me more about that. We can't leave stuff lying there when it comes to motivation, or we are going to regret it. We could end up
If
watching.
someone says that to me, John, if they say, well, it doesn't matter, I'll say, well, why aren't you just staying where you are then?
Push away, right? A little push away.
Yeah, just plant them back in that house. It's like, why, you're in a house now, you're talking about moving, but you're saying it doesn't matter. So you want to spend more time on focusing why it is that they want to move. And for those of you on here, if you remember the Karate Kid, okay, and Mr. Miyagi had, what's his face, can't remember his name, painting like up and down. Yeah, up and down, up and down. He got so frustrated. Well, building a pipeline starts with the first contact, whether you're face to face, whether you're on the phone, it shouldn't be text. It starts with that, and building trust and going through the desire, need, ability, and upfront contract, because that's where the pipeline starts, right, John?
It is, I'm just thinking back to when I was learning all this stuff way back in the day, when Will was still in grade school. I remember there was a guy, we had salespeople from all different industries. We met every Thursday morning at 7 o'clock at my coach's office. There was no real estate coaches back then, Dan, as a sales coach. And this guy used to take it to a whole nother level. He was an engineer, a sales engineer. I forget what the hell that he was selling, pumps or compressors or something. And he would sit down with people, and he would start out by saying, "Okay, so share with me why we're here." Look, I don't know, man. It worked for him, but it was something that basically spoke to the fact that he's pushing him away a little bit. So desire is motivation, need is the pain, the emotional drivers. We already addressed that. And then, do they have the ability? Okay, now look, at the end of the day, it goes beyond financial ability. Okay, so are they waiting for an estate to settle? Because you know what they say, where there's a will, there's a relative. I had a guy who had to sell a car once, right? I had another guy who was waiting to start a new job. You get the idea. But we need to ask about that, and then upfront contract. And we alluded to this before. You could do everything right up until this point, and you're getting ready to hang up the phone, and you say, "Hey, I'll follow up with you in May. I know you're not going to be ready till June," and you're dead man walking or dead woman walking. It is the kiss of death if you can't get this one right. So an upfront contract is an exchange of commitments about exactly what happens next and when. And every time that upfront contract is fulfilled, you set another upfront contract. So for example, and this was my MO. So Will, listen, I really appreciate your time. I know that your timeline is you're not till spring of next year. But before we hang up, can I ask you a question? Well, what's that? So, Will, look, in my business, I've got to walk a really fine line between providing good service and follow up and pestering people. And I would never want to do that. I don't pester people. It's not how I work. So could you just share with me what good follow up and good service might look like for you? And then you have a conversation about it. Sometimes they don't know and say, well, look, Will, this is the way I work. Most agents just send you a list of properties and so forth, and you can just get that on Zillow. I get that, okay? But the bottom line is, with the MLS service, oftentimes we see properties, right away that fit your criteria, and other times we fundamentally see off-market properties coming soon. So do you mind if I check in with you from time to time, about that? Well, of course not. So Will, here's the other piece of this. And see, you want to get them off of the websites they're using and preferably onto your site. Will, could you share with me what websites you're using right now to search? I'm guessing maybe Zillow. Yeah, Zillow. Well, can I share with you why that might not be a good choice? Well, why is that? Well, three reasons, Will. Number one is that sometimes the info isn't in real time. Number two is, believe it or not, people using those websites have given Zillow permission to use their private information with other vendors. And third, and most importantly, you're going to be bombarded with calls from other agents. So can I just make a suggestion that you check out our website? I'll send you the link right now. I'll also send you the link to our 5-star reviews. And can I call you back on Friday just to see how you're liking our website? I think you'll find it great. See, there's your upfront contract. I'm calling you Friday. Well, what time is a good time for you? Well, I work till 5. Okay, how about if I give you a call about 6 on Friday? Upfront contract. Exactly what's going to happen and when it happens next. And you keep renewing it. And guys, that's another whole call. I'm just pointing you all in a direction, and you have to contrast this with what you've been doing. You get one shot here, one. There's no 3 strikes and you're out. There's 1 strike and you're dead or not. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so
The other thing is, John, most of us on here don't use our CRMs properly. I think if we had one of our secrets is we've got a CRM and we barely use its functionality to remind us. And if we have these open-ended to make ourselves, like my life easier in my business, selling a lot of real estate, the reason what John just said works is because you can put it in your calendar and you just keep putting something on. Like we use follow-up boss, like follow-up is in the name of the thing, and boss represents what it's supposed to, like how good it is at follow-up. And I still don't use it to its to its full potential. So my point is that if you protect yourself by getting these short commitments, it's going to build a relationship with the person, but it's also going to make it much more likely that you will actually follow up. Because if you think about it, a lot of us, if we were honest with ourselves, there's probably 3, 4, 10, depending on how much business you do, transactions that you did not get just because you didn't follow up.
Yeah, I mean, what ends up happening is the fruit rots on the vine, and so you've got all these. You can work your butt off to get prospects in your pipeline, but you don't stay in touch. You don't create a relationship, as Will said. And now we're feast and famine. We run this wad of business through, and then we're out of business, right? It's, guys, I shared with Will this morning. This is no way to live. I mean, seriously, it's no way to live. You want to have an income stream that's like rolling hills, not up, down, spike down, spike down. I mean, it's a horrible way to live, and you don't have to live that way, but you have to be obsessed with your pipeline, probably pretty much more than anything else. All right, so
And it's the only, John, before you go, it's the only reason that agents don't make it. It's the only reason. Agents don't make it. It's not like they just die. They get another job. So the don't make it part is they get another source of income, or because they're just sick of it. And that usually happens because their paychecks get too far apart. Well, the only reason your paycheck gets too far apart is because you're not spending your time 25% of your time generating leads, 25% following up on the leads and the prospects that you've created, and then the rest of the time actually doing your job. If you do that, you'll never run out of sales.
There's no doubt about it. At the end of the day, we're in the lead generation and lead conversion business. We're not in the real
That's
estate,
it.
right? That's what we do.
Correct. Yeah.
I was telling a lady that I coached right before this call that, we don't get paid by the hour. We get paid by the value that we bring to the hour, right? And then I said, on second thought, we get paid by the ulcer in this business. Right. So
Okay, but yeah, and the headache.
exactly. All right, guys, look,
All right.
let's just go ahead. I'm sorry, Will.
No, we've got 15
15.
minutes, and I want to make sure that we get over to how to categorize your pipeline because
Yeah.
that
Yeah, exactly.
now that you've turned them into, does anybody want to put a message in the chat about converting a lead to a prospect? Did that all make sense to you? Is it clear on like the questions that you ask and the commitments that you're asking for so that it actually turns into a prospect? I'd love to hear feedback in the chat if anybody has any information, has any feedback on that.
All right, so
Go ahead, John.
last segment's going to be on how to categorize the prospects in your pipeline, and also the Q&A. So guys, look, let's just circle back to the 5 things, because we're going to do number 5 now, that are the kiss of death. And if you don't get it right, you're going to subject yourself to a premature autopsy. I promise. Okay, I promise. Number 1 are belief systems, right? Number 2 is not understanding the holy grail, which is you put blank number of prospects in your pipeline every week. You're obsessed with it. That's all you think about, because at the end of the day, if you're putting quality prospects in your pipeline, you're gonna have a great year. The third thing is that you understand the difference between a lead and a prospect. And boy, this one's really deadly, because you lull yourself into a false sense of security and you think, oh, I got all this upcoming business, and you got nothing really. And that's really painful. And then the fourth thing is to understand that motivation is what gets us paid. All right, number 5 is simply this. You can do, again, everything right, and including an upfront contract. But if you don't have this, this is probably the thing that creates more despondency than anything else. So you work really hard for people. You have upfront contract that you keep renewing. You are basically servicing them really well. And then they do what? They list their home with someone else. They buy their home from someone else because we never asked for loyalty. Right? We have no loyalty. And you have to set the table. And I saved this for last because your pipeline it's got to be based on motivation and loyalty. How soon are they going to do something, and are they loyal to us? And if you or I go about the business of being wishy-washy on whether they're loyal to us or not, it's a big problem. Well, with a seller, once they sign a listing agreement, of course they're loyal. With a buyer, once they sign a buyer agency agreement, of course they're loyal. But what about between that phone call and now? Right? What do we do with that? And it depends. Okay, it depends. But here's the deal: we've got to have loyalty, or else we need to be moving in that direction. Okay, and look, I just asked people, guys. I asked for it. I would say, well, listen, at the end of the day, I'm going to work really hard to find you a home. I'm going to be servicing you in a manner consistent with how we just spoke, what we had just spoken about. But can I ask you just for a small commitment? What's that? I'm going to provide you with great service. Would you please give me the commitment that you're going to be loyal to me? At the end of the day, you're not going to be working with any other agents, because it doesn't really make sense for me to work so hard for folks who aren't going to be loyal, right? Okay, fair enough. Now, Will and I, again, were talking this morning for a while, and something I reminded of what Will used to do many years ago. Will, you want to talk about if people refuse to give you any kind of loyalty, and how you handled it, a buyer? About let me take you out for a day, and then you're muted, Will.
Back in the day, I've been using a buyer representation agreement since 1995. But I would meet with a buyer at the office and then have them sign a representation agreement. But if they weren't willing to, and I wanted to work with them, then I would say, well, I tell you what, let's just go look at houses and see how we feel about each other at the end of the day. And at the end of that day, if we both feel like we want to keep working with each other, then we'll go through the buyer representation agreement. That's what I would do. And it didn't happen very often, but if I wanted to work with them, that's what I would do.
So, so exactly. I mean, sometimes you have to put some wood in the stove before people will give you loyalty. But look, if you do a good job of being prospect centered and, having good upfront contracts, they're going to trust you. Your goal is not to get an appointment. Your goal is to create trust, right? That's your goal. So real quickly, because we got some questions in the queue, motivation levels. I did A, B, C, D, E, and you can see them there. Let me share the screen real quickly. Well, you can see this, right? You can see this up there, the motivation levels, right? You can still see the screen. So, an A was they're going to buy our list within 30 days or less. B, 31 to 60. C, 61 to 90. You get the idea. And then loyalty is 1, 2, 3. 1 is absolute loyalty, 2 is maybe, and 3 is none. And so think about this, y'all. A3 is not so great, is it? That's not a great person to be working with. They're going to list or sell within 30 days, but hey, I'm going to be, talking to listing agents. I'm not going to be loyal to any one buyer agent. And so this is how you want to categorize the people in your prospect pipeline, not just based on motivation, but based on their level of loyalty. And so that's the 5th kiss of death. If you don't have ones, or at least 2s that you're moving toward ones, it's going to be very, very problematic. It really is. All right. So questions, Brad. He's asking when do they become an active lead? You and I talked about this last week, I think it was, and the problem is that I think that you're picking up language from whomever, team leader or whomever. There's no such thing as an active lead. It's either a lead or an active prospect. Prospect is active in some way. And I say this with a servant's heart. I would ditch that terminology, active lead. You either have a lead or a prospect. There's no gray area.
So if they come in as a new lead, right? Because that's how any source will come in as a new lead. And if I don't reach them or they're ghosting me, do they just they still sit in the new lead?
They're just a lead. That's all they are.
A lead.
They're not,
Okay.
they're not a prospect until you've gone through that criteria. Substantive dialogue, qualify them as to their DNA, and then upfront contract. Now we have a prospect. But people say to me all the time, I've got 100 leads in my database. Like, shut up. You're like, who cares? Right? I mean, you might as well have 1,000. Prospects is where
it's a mindset shift, Brad. That's all. It's all how you compartmentalize in your head. Because if you treat all leads the same, but a lead, you don't know if they're ready, willing, able, or they might be ready, willing, and able, but if you can't get them off first base with you, then it doesn't matter, right? So what John's suggesting is that as professionals, we all need to make sure that we have these barriers around what we're willing to call a prospect or not, and get those in our database. Because if you can get 2 a week in, like 2 substantive conversations, take them through the desire, need, ability, and then the commitment with you, or at least just a small commitment of loyalty, like he said, well, then you're really increasing your chances of having them buy a house or sell a house with you much sooner, and it's gonna make it much less messy when you're not treating them all the same way.
The question that always begs answering, in deference to Will's point, is Would we rather have 100 leads coming into our pipeline every week or 2 good prospects every week?
I
That's
definitely want
right.
2 prospects for sure.
How long do you water?
And-
How long, guys? How long do you water a lead that's not communicating back with you?
I think, go
So
ahead.
can I answer that? So I listen to a
Sure.
podcast, Stay Paid, who Luke A. If you guys are listening to any real estate podcasts, listen to Stay Paid by Luke Acree. It's Reminder Media. And Luke says, because they're in the marketing business, that the average lead takes 17 touches. And most of us give up after 2.
Yeah, I mean, again, at the end of the day, I do believe that, this whole thing with ghosting in everybody's defense can be difficult because people aren't picking up their phones like they used to. But there is texting, there is voicemail can be very effective. Snail mail can be really effective too, which nobody uses anymore. So Laura had a question, and it's a great question. What is a good response after they say we aren't in a hurry or we're not ready yet? Laura, I think that the answer to the question is that you don't say anything, you ask a question. So we have these conversation extenders. Remember, we get one shot at this. When you say such and such, how do you mean? When you say you're not in a big hurry, Will, could you share with me, how you mean exactly? Could you tell me more about that? When you say that, we're not ready yet, could you share with me what has to happen for you to be ready? You fundamentally explore it, because guess what? People who say we're not in any hurry, oftentimes are in a hurry, but they still see us as an adversary and not an advocate. Right. And
Here's my analogy, John. You walk into Banana Republic and you've got to buy a shirt because you're going to a wedding this afternoon. Somebody runs up to you and says, "Can I help you?" You still say, "No, I'm just looking." Even though you're there to buy a suit or a shirt, you've got to get it in 10 minutes because you just don't want to be hassled. You don't want to have them follow you around.
yeah, it's like
Right?
Pavlov's dogs salivating at the tinkle of a bell, right?
Right.
That's how it's been for years and years. But in the hands of a very skilled salesperson in retail, boy, it's a whole different conversation. But I don't know why they're still teaching that. But again, when people ask those kind of say those kind of things, we're not in a hurry, we're not ready yet. See, it speaks to motivation, doesn't it? And if we don't explore it, we could end up in deep kimchi, really. Watering down.
And once you start developing the trust and you build the rapport, you might be surprised on how much they're more motivated they become. Again, they might be ready to move in the next month. They just don't feel like sharing it with you yet because they think that you're going to just like climb all over them.
So we're coming to the 4 o'clock hour.
Oh, we got a minute.
Yeah. Anybody else have a question or a comment? Wait a second. Steve Williams said, and Nick both said the same thing. This was a colossal waste of our time. Thanks for nothing. All right.
Oh, thanks.
It's not cool, guys. If they're either a lead or a prospect, it's there's no middle ground, at least in my experience.
Other than that, everyone have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and thanks for sharing your afternoon with us today.
Yeah,
Thank
enjoy.
you.
Thanks for being on the call, guys.